So currently, I have decided to continue talking about certain things on YouTube. I posted a couple videos regarding mental health just because that's something that I've kind of struggled with growing up. I had an in-depth conversation with my family members this weekend when we went to a horse show about mental health and the importance of being able to get that support from family and friends. That was one of the things that I haven't really had as a child growing up. And one of the things that my counselor had stated was childhood is important for getting the roots to being an adult. Your childhood being not stable and not having what you need affects you later on as you get older, and it affects you more into your adulthood. My sister and I agree on that level because, we both have not experienced a great childhood. So, for me, mental health right now, like being able to see a counselor, attending live seminars online, listening to people talk about their struggles. It's amazing that someone who has not been what you've been through and who has not experienced the mental trauma that you have experienced can judge you to an extent where they literally feel that what you're going through is stupid. And you have to take a step back. Not everybody's life is the same. Not everybody's had loving parents that stayed together, parents that bought them everything they wanted. People live different. They don't have the same type of childhood, the same type of living situation, space, whatever. They don't have that. And so everybody is raised and is affected differently. Human beings are definitely a different type of creature where they are quick to judge others rather than listen to both sides and understand and comprehend. People are so quick to jump to things that they shouldn't. And over the last 4 months, this journey that I've been on has taught me so many things. It started from, me wanting to document a weight loss journey. I have polycystic ovary syndrome, so it's hard for me to lose weight. I got my gallbladder taken out, so it was hard for me to lose weight. I tried so many diets, and none of those diets worked for me the way that I was hoping that they would. So I started doing keto. And so when I started doing keto, I cut out bread, dairy, pop, anything that, is sugar wise that you can hold on to. Keto is high fat, low carb because your body burns fat to get energy. So what I love about that is like all the fattening foods, technically you're not supposed to have them when you have your gallbladder out, but the fact that all the fattening foods burned a lot better than sugar. So I kind of got off my diet when I got here. I was down to 205 pounds. I had been anywhere from 230 to 290 at one point. I got so heavy from the depression and from, not being in the correct mental state. And back to depression and mental health. That's what people don't understand is when you're depressed, you shut down. You don't want to do with anybody. Your attitude changes and it's a domino effect. Not only are you affected, but you are affecting your kids, you're affecting your spouse, you're affecting your animals, you're affecting different people. It's a pyramid scheme. You're at the top, everyone down below is going to be affected by things that fall. So when you don't have the support that you need, when you don't have the people in your life who are there for you mentally and who support you, and I don't mean like they come to visit, they buy you things, you buy them things, you hang out. I mean like these people actually want to talk to you and engage with you about why you're struggling. And one of the things that I've come to accept is people are going to lie about you. People are going to make things up and they're going to form an opinion of you and nothing is going to change it. And it's not worth changing it. If people are not going to care about you as a person, they don't really know you. They don't fully know you or your situation. what they say is irrelevant. What they say doesn't matter, because what's important is you and your family. That's what you take care of first. And it took me forever to really learn and understand that. But one thing that you have to do is you have to understand you come first, then your kids, then your family. Your spouse, significant other is, there with your kids, but it's always you. You have to look out for you. You can't trust anybody. And blood is quicker to throw you under the bus. Even though they say blood's thicker than water, blood is so quick to throw you under the bus. With my ex, I didn't expect that us breaking up would be this bad. I mean, he's got it to a point where he's got people convinced that I'm crazy, that I'm abusive, that I lie. And the problem is, when you're a narcissist and your family are narcissists, and people don't really understand you, or they don't understand what you're going through, people are quick to jump to conclusions and take one side. There's two sides to every story. And it's a shame that people can be convinced that somebody else is a problem when they don't know the full story. They don't know the backside of it. And sitting back and thinking about my relationship and everything that I've been through and everything that I've dealt with, it just really doesn't, I don't get it. I don't understand. So I was in Montana for the last 7 years. And for me, that was, being out with my dad who lives out there. I had gone back for my ex. And as soon as I got there, everything was about his family. Everything was about his sister. Everything was about, what he was doing prior to me coming there, when we had talked and he had made it clear that he wanted to be with me. My ex had knowledge of my childhood and of the way that my family treated me, and I ended up finding out, after we were together for a while, and I, got pregnant with him, which we had to go through fertility treatments because I have polycystic ovary syndrome. So I had to go through fertility treatments to get anything to work for me to ovulate, to be able to have a baby. And so all the things that we had been through, regardless of the way that he treated me, I still loved him. I still stuck it out. And his exact words to me were that he was not an emotional person. He could not communicate well. He did not do well in relationships, that he hadn't had a serious relationship. We sat down and we talked about that. So back to mental health. I was trying to support his issues. I was trying to address what he considered was the problem for the relationship. Because if you think about it, anybody around our age, I'm 30, he's 40, my boyfriend's 27, anyone around our age has probably either been in a serious relationship and had kids, or they have been in a serious relationship and tried to have kids. Regardless, people, at least my age and up, have been in relationships for, 5 to 10 years. That's a long time to commit to somebody. So when you have past trauma from relationships and you can't work it out with your partner, and you don't get those issues resolved, everything kind of just gets swept under the rug because a lot of people can't communicate. And that's the thing is, my current situation right now, I moved here from Montana 4 months ago. I had broke it off with my ex. We were not together when I lived in Montana. I had told him at our one house before we moved to this cabin that we were building, when things got heated and the way that he talked to me and the way that he handled the situation, I informed him that we were done. I informed him that we were not going to be together anymore. And we were living together. We were living in the same space. The kids and us were together. But I had told him with the way that he had responded to a couple of our arguments that I was not going to be with him anymore. He had suggested to me that it would be best if we got a divorce and just be friends and stick it out and, try to stop before it got worse. Those were his words. So when I came to Pennsylvania, I wasn't planning on staying here. I hadn't been back to Pennsylvania for about 7 years. There had been a couple times where we had the funds to come back, and my ex did not want me to take my kids. My family had not met my daughter, and he refused to let me take my daughter to Pennsylvania. He kept forcing me to choose to either go by myself and leave the kids or not go at all. One of the times that we got into an argument, my ex decided that he was going to tell his family that I was not allowed to leave the house. They were not allowed to take me to Kalispell. They were not allowed to, which I was 2 hours from Kalispell at that point. They said that they would not take me to town because he told them he was going to go to the courthouse and get divorce papers and a parenting plan, even though it doesn't quite work like that, and you don't just get paperwork and then the judge magically snaps his fingers and says, you know what, no, she can't take the kid. It takes a while. He wouldn't let me leave the house. So what really upsets me is, all of these incidents have involved my children. My children have been a part of this. So not only is my son, trying to have a relationship with his real dad, which is not my ex, he's also trying to handle the fact that my ex is questioning him about things that he doesn't need to question him about. He's getting him involved in our separation. He's getting him involved by asking questions. So my ex wants to say that I have been saying things to my son to make him not want to talk to him. And what really upsets me is back to the mental health thing on children is I don't involve my children in things that they mentally can't handle. Everyone has seen me as a parent. I don't politely say, oh, please stop doing that. Please stop hitting the wall with the hammer. I'm a stern parent. I'm not a parent that just decides, oh, I'm just gonna let my kids do whatever. Here, have a tablet, go sit down. That's not me. I teach my kids right from wrong. What my ex seen that he's spreading to everybody is that I'm a mean parent, because what he doesn't comprehend in his brain is when you are stressed, everybody else around you feels it, and everybody else around you will get the results of it when you don't have that support. And that is why I started going to counseling when I was in Montana. I started seeing a therapy counselor that deals with narcissistic couples, family therapy, and trauma. I was diagnosed with PTSD. I tried to get my ex to understand exactly what that means, and everybody didn't want to listen, because back to the whole thing, if people don't understand what you're going through, or they've never been through it, they are never going to really understand how you feel and what you are going through and how you're handling that trauma. So for my children, I don't involve them. I don't let them hear me talk about it. I don't let them hear me talk to my ex. I've really cut them out, because coming back here for a funeral, they had to see me be emotional. My aunt that passed away in November has been in my life since I was a child. I got to come back in the summer, and I visited in the summertime. My mom and I would come back. There was a couple times where we would come back from Montana. I would spend the summer here, or we would spend a year here in Pennsylvania, and we would go back to Montana. My aunt, my mom's sister, has been a part of my life since I was really little. And I hadn't been to Montana in 7 years due to my ex not allowing it to happen. He didn't want to come visit. He didn't want anything to do with my mom. He flat out told me at one point that my children were not going to be around my mom, and that my daughter was never going to meet my mom because he doesn't like my mom. So I decided that I was coming back for the funeral. My dad helped me pay for the ticket because my ex, once again, he said it was a funeral I could go, but he wanted me to leave the kids. I told him no, that no one in my family had met my daughter. This is multiple attempts that I've tried to come back and visit, and I wasn't allowed to do it. So when I came back, the fact that my kids had to watch me go through what I went through had to attend the funeral. You know, there wasn't a layout. It was just, it was an urn. I haven't really had time to mourn my aunt, really, because I've been so upset with everything else. I've been working, I've been dealing with the kids, my son's in 4-H, my daughter's doing activities, so I haven't really had time to mourn my aunt. And when I got a message from my mother that my aunt had passed away, it really hurt me that this person sitting next to me in the vehicle as I received the text message that is supposed to love me and care about me and understand me and really get my mental, state and the things that I've been through. Receiving that message, knowing that I'm never going to see that person again, knowing that my aunt never got to meet my daughter, it just really tore me apart. And he just doesn't understand. Like I tried to tell him over and over again, when we're arguing and I'm getting upset and he's not listening to what I'm saying, he admitted that he didn't really hear what I was saying, that he didn't care about what I was saying, regardless, of what it was. He just wanted me to be done talking so he could talk. That is what he told me. So when someone doesn't care about what you have to say, I remember everything that my ex told me because I wanted to take that information in, regardless of not wanting to be wrong in any situation, because nobody wants to be wrong. Regardless, I still took that information in and I really reflected on myself, because when you're in a relationship, that's what you do. You try to understand the other person's feelings and you reflect on yourself and you try to fix what you are doing. So I cared about my ex's feelings. I cared about what he had gone through. I cared about, he had lost a girl that he had feelings for, he lost his dog. I really sympathized in certain things with him, because when you care about somebody, you want to comfort them. And what I tried to explain to him was, when someone has feelings for you and you repeatedly hurt them, especially in the ways that I was hurt as a child. And this is what I tried to get through to him. When you scream at me, it reminds me of my childhood. And that's a PTSD thing. He never understood. He never cared to understand post-traumatic stress. And I tried to get him to understand, when you start screaming at me because you're mad, and it doesn't matter what the excuse is. His family said, oh, well, when you get him that mad. Okay, well, I don't sit there and scream in his face and call him a psychotic bitch. I don't stand in the living room and call him the C word. I don't flip over chairs and, get in my ex's face and tell my ex that I'm going to box him, because that was something that happened on the porch. Regardless of what I said, which the exact thing that I said was that he had stated that my son wasn't his. Those were the exact words that came out of my mouth. And my ex got in my face and told me that he was going to box me. What he doesn't understand is so many years of trying to be patient with somebody who just yells. Their only way to get their frustration out when they won't communicate with you is just to scream at you. It gets old. It gets tiring. It gets draining. I have been so stressed out before, to the point where it's mentally draining. I'm just so tired before the end of the day because of all of the stress that has hit me. I've explained to him I cannot continue on with the yelling. We need to communicate. And it didn't matter. I could talk like this. It didn't matter how I tried to communicate with my ex. He never wanted to communicate with me. So yelling and screaming and doing things to me that remind me of the way that my childhood was is not a way to communicate with somebody who has been through that kind of trauma. But once again, he'll say that that's a crutch, that my mental health isn't important, that I use that as an excuse to be a bitch. That's what he always told me, was that I used that as an excuse to be a bitch. So the current counselor that I'm going to, she's seen messages between me and my ex. She's seen his videos. online, because he's making videos about me, and like the current one that he made actually today has a lot of lies in it. So I wanted her to address that and actually see where I'm coming from with everything. I wanted her to understand like where I'm at. So back to my current relationship with my boyfriend, I had been broke up with my ex for a while. We had the cabin for about 2 months. I was hoping when we got the cabin that things would change, that I could start to hopefully, we got out of the town that we were in. It was really stressful, a lot of bad, relationships with people there, just too many like things that I didn't want to be there. So we moved to a piece of property. We started building up a tiny home. I had my dogs. I was going to garden. I was going to do chickens. I was going to do goats. Like I had all these plans. So we moved to this property, and his parents don't live that far from the house. So I figured that would be great because they could help us with the kids if I was working or if we wanted to go do something or whatever. COVID had happened, so we had internet down there. My son could do school from home. And my ex's dad started coming over all the time and trying to take over basically building the tiny home. He would come over and bring us things that we didn't need because he worked at the dump. He would, start trying to give us these like things that were broken that needed this part or whatever. And my ex would be like, no, I don't want that. It's garbage. Like he's not bringing that over. Well, my ex's family was a big part of the issue with our relationship, because not only had he lied about me to his family, but they also didn't like me because like of the lies. And not only that, but I'm very outspoken and I am bitchy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I am bitchy. That's just who I am. Everybody in my family knows that I'm loud, bitchy, and I complain a lot. That's my family. Every time I show up and I'm loud, my family is like, oh, she's here. Or, like I start rambling and we're at a public event and my sister will be like, that's just my sister, because they've accepted me for who I am. They know who I am. They know that this is how I am. Well, my ex's family, for the 7 years that I was there, for the first like 4, I wasn't really close with any of them. I didn't become close with them until my daughter was born. And then we started becoming close. So for the first 4 years, I didn't really have anything to do with them because they all hated me, regardless of what they say. It's different if these people are reaching out to you and telling you to come hang out or whatever, or hey, bring your wife. They hated me. Even after I had my daughter, I know they didn't like me. And it's just funny that, like my ex's sister, I paid for them to go on a vacation, and she had to come back and lie to everybody and tell them that I expected her to pay me back when I spent over $3,000 to make sure that her and her kids could go have fun at an amusement park, paid for her gas, her hotel, her food, because she's a single mom and she couldn't afford to do anything for her kids. But yet I got bad-mouthed about that. And the things with my ex, everyone is sitting here saying that I did all these things, that I'm horrible. I've been separated from my ex for about 6 months now, because it was about 2 months when I was there that we had separated when I got on the plane. So when I decided not to go back, it was because when I got here, I realized, being controlled, whether you feel like you're controlling somebody or not, feeling not controlled is amazing. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody's opinion, because they didn't have to live through it. I did. I had to live through that relationship. And I really have to thank my counselor in Montana, because I feel like if I wouldn't have went to counseling with her, I wouldn't have left. I would not have left my ex if I actually hadn't gone to counseling, because I took tons of evidence to her to provide messages, to provide, like conversations. And, before anybody starts going on this whole tangent of, oh, wow, well, you took confidential information to the counselor and she doesn't need to know those things. Okay, well, first off, YouTube videos are public. messages can be shown to anybody. And when you have a recording app on your phone that records phone calls that both of you have, that the other one has recordings of, and, you know, like you take video for evidence, you know, like people take video for like police evidence, you know, to like give to the police officer when someone's like violent and, you know, does stupid things. I mean, that's all legal. So back on track here. I provided my counselor with a lot of evidence. I let her talk to friends of mine. You know, they signed saying that they would talk. I let her talk to my friends. So my friends were able to contest too, like how crazy my ex was, because, you know, they had been witness to a lot of it. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I know that I did treat him like crap, but here's the thing that like my ex refuses to understand, that I don't understand why he doesn't. You give energy to somebody else. It could be positive, it could be negative, it could be whatever type of energy. You give an energy, okay, to people. So when you give energy to somebody, it could be positive or it could be negative. So when you're in a new relationship, everybody gives positive energy. They give it and receive it because you're new, you know, you don't understand like each other yet, like everything's new, so the vibe is new. Over time, when you get comfortable and you learn each other and you don't get along or you argue over things, there's different energy that's exchanged. And what my ex didn't really understand is the same energy that you give to somebody, they're going to give you in return. So when you sit here and you say that I'm justified and you say that you understand what you did wrong, my question is, then why are you still arguing and trying to make everybody think that I'm psychotic and that I'm crazy and that, you know, you did nothing wrong, but yet you're making a video saying that I'm justified and all the reasons as to why you agree with why you feel I'm justified. But then, so my ex made that video explaining me and why he loves me, what he doesn't like about me, and how I'm justified in my actions. He's told me before in text message to not apologize for leaving because I should never apologize in doing something that I believe in, that I feel is good for my mental health. But then he'll flip-flop back to, it's my fault, all this stuff. So regardless of what I did, one thing is, when you're giving your partner negative energy, when you're not communicating, when you're not showing love and affection the way that, you know, you should be showing love and affection, when you're stressing, when you're this, when you're that, when your partner repeatedly tries to show you that they want love and attention, or they like want you to do things, you know, even if you don't want to go lay in bed with your partner because you don't want to be in bed, but they're depressed and they want to be loved and nurtured, and, you know, you're both like saplings. Like, you need to water each other. You need to nurture each other to really understand and care for the feelings of the person that you're with. When you don't get that, when you get negative energy all the time, when you're constantly told that everything that you do is wrong and you're crazy and you're a bitch and whatever, it's like I tried to tell him many times, why don't we sit down and why don't we talk about, hey, this is what you do to me that really upsets me, and this is what I do to you that I know upsets you. Like, I always said to him, why can't you just say, you know, babe, the way that you talk to me, I really didn't like that. Can we talk about it? And instead it would be, and I hate the way that you talk to me. You need to stop talking to me like that. You will not talk to me like that. That's the difference between my ex talking to me and actually communicating. And he agreed that his communication skills were not the best. So with the counselor helping me understand about, like, you're only going to receive the energy that you give. And so, like, I tried to give different energy, but it's hard when you're not getting the energy that you want. And you've said over and over again, this is the energy that I need. This is what I want from you. Like, my counselor said that you can outgrow people. So when you're here, you know, he said that he didn't look at me as an equal. He said that, he said that basically basically he said that he looked at me under him like I wasn't an equal. But you should be right here with your partner regardless. But when someone's losing weight and they're stopping smoking and they're, working out and they're getting their credit up and they're doing all this, and this person wants to stay here on this level and you're here, and you've repeatedly tried to talk them into counseling, to like going on walks with you, to going out and doing things out in public, to taking the kids to the park, to eating different, to don't bring that in the house, to, hey, why don't you start vaping instead of smoking, and then we'll get you off cigarettes and vaping altogether. And someone doesn't want to help themselves. Not only does the non-communication, the constantly being put down and told that you're bitchy, moody, weird, all these things, plus like them not wanting to move up with you, them not wanting to be healthy. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's not just, oh, you left him and you're with somebody else. I had been checked out of the marriage for a long time. I tried to get him to understand how I was feeling. I was honest with him when I fell out of love with him. I sat him down one night and I said, Tom, I really want you to understand, like, I'm not saying this to hurt you. Like, I want you to, like, hear me out and understand. And he didn't want to hear me out. He didn't want to understand where I was coming from. And what really got to me was, I told him that, I wanted him to really understand, like, where I was coming from. I wanted him to, sorry, I'm currently at work. I'm on my lunch, but I decided to do a video on my lunch. But I wanted him to understand where I was coming from with the whole me falling out of love. I tried to explain to him that I wanted him to see where I was coming from. I was honest with him. I could have kept it from him. I could have lied to him. I told him that I fell out of love with him. I told him that, I wanted him to really, like, get where I was coming from.